Good Monday morning. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you for your grace for a couple weeks to gather my thoughts and get some normalcy back to life as the school season started. There's another thing that started: football. If you're in the Jones house, you've been charting the course since it ended in January, and that you knew full well that this Saturday was the opening kickoff of, we just talk about SEC around here. But what was interesting is that throughout the course of this year, as I've been teaching on words, the Lord's given me a lot of opportunity to realize how often I misuse mine. I had to apologize to a friend the other day for something that just flew out of my mouth that was not constructive in any measure. And then a week before last, Philly and I were sitting on the sofa, and he had been watching last year's bowl game for Georgia. I'm like, babe, who watches football that's already happened? It's one thing to watch a movie multiple times. It's another thing to watch a football game multiple times. But I guess if you played football, you're used to that because you watch film over and over. But I had finally gotten the control back, and I was perusing Facebook, and I saw him reach for the control out of the corner of my eye. And I looked over at him, and I was like, wait, what are you about to watch? What are you about to watch? And I watched the look on his face, and he just took the control and set it back over there on the edge of the sofa. But by this point, I was rather convicted about my response. And so I immediately apologized. And what's so interesting about it, it's just the day before this was the passage of scripture that I had been studying in Proverbs 17:1. Better is, I'm sorry, this is kind of funny. Better is a dry morsel with quiet than a house full of feasting with strife. I'm such a visual person. And Solomon, as writing these Proverbs, was so full of these visual pictures. You know, the man in the corner of the little roof. Like, can't you picture him in the corner of the roof hiding away from his spouse? And now you have this picture of this dry little crumb of bread, and there's quiet everywhere, and the man's just like, and it doesn't just have to be a man, okay? Let's get that right. The person takes this dry morsel, and they're about to eat it with such joy because everything is quiet. And yet, you have this contrastive picture with this feasting, just imagine this abundant table, and yet everybody's screaming or arguing across the table. It's such a picture of the contrast of what strife takes away from, how it takes away from joy, or it takes away from peace. It doesn't matter how beautiful the spread. It doesn't matter how abundant the supply. If strife exists, none of that matters. In fact, it makes it virtually impossible to be enjoyed. And I realize that here we are on the front of the football season that Philly has been looking forward to, and I have a choice of how I want to handle this season with my words. Granted, I love football. I just don't have to watch every game that comes on. But I want you to look at James chapter 4, verse 1 of the root, or one of the reasons for strife. It says, what causes quarrels and what causes fights among you? Is it not this, that your passions are at war within you? And what that actually means is that your selfish desires are at war within you. We quarrel because we want what we want. We quarrel because we think what we want is more important than what someone else wants. And then he goes on to say in Proverbs, the same passage of Proverbs, verse 14, the beginning of strife is like letting out water. It's like, okay, you can start letting it out, and you can have, it may look like a trickle right now, but if you don't stop water, it eventually floods something. The beginning of strife is like letting out water, so quit before the quarrel or the flood breaks out. We get to choose life or death. It's where we started, and it's where we've traveled, and it's where we will end with this instrument. Football season's just started. I'm going to choose peace in the Jones household because I don't want my selfish ways to have to be what dictates a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. Yeah. Even though there may be days that we'll watch a Hallmark movie. Good word for Monday morning. I don't want to be the reason for someone not enjoying the feast and causing someone to rather have a dry morsel in quiet.